I was reading that you spent 6 years in a refugee camp when you were a young kid. And a lot of the conversation around refugees, especially in the US, has become very heated and politicized. And it's a lot of people that were born in the United States, like myself, talking about the experiences of refugees and what they go through. But we don't actually hear from a lot of refugees themselves who have come to the US. So I wanted to ask you if you could tell the story of how you became a refugee and what that was like, going through that with your family.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my family originated from Vietnam. My mom and myself and my little brother. Let's go back before we actually escaped the country. So my grandfather fought during the Vietnam War. He fought alongside with the American. So after the collapse of the South Vietnam Army, my mom's side family, my grandfather were killed during the war. At that time, they get into a lot of difficult time after the war, since they was part of the South Vietnam Army. So during that time between 1975 and 19 up to early 1990, a lot of people actually escaped the country. That's wave of immigrant. They call the people this the boat people. So
The boat people.
my yes, literally the boat people. So I remember I was 7 at the time, in first grade, and one day my mom just showed up for class and pulled me out in the middle class. Didn't tell me where we going and what is it for. Have no idea. The next thing I remember that we are in a little bit south of Saigon in a little canoe on along the riverbank with some bottled water with us. Now my mom was I was 7 at the time. My brother was like 3.5, and here we are. Still, my mom haven't told us anything where we're going yet. The next thing we know, we are on the little canoe, and then went out further out from the river and into the ocean. There's a boat waiting for us, and we're boarding the boats. And I said, "All right, have no idea." I'm said, "Well, follow my mom instruction." And later on, here we are in the middle of the ocean. So start to realize here I am in a small boat, fishing boat that designed probably for 10, 15 fishermen. And we cram 165 people on the boat.
And so exactly where you were going at this point, you were on this fishing boat, you were crammed in with other people. But did you have an idea of where you were heading, or was it kind of you were just a kid waiting to hear what your parents were going to say?
We have no idea. I mean, I would thought, I'm just, just waiting for my mom to tell me something. So it's just my mom, me, my mom, my younger brother.
That's
And,
that's
and
a very devastating. It's like I'm used to getting pulled out of class for something like a dentist appointment. When my parents would pull me out of class, I would assume I was either in trouble or I had to go to the doctor. So I couldn't imagine if my mom pulled me out of school and she was like, "Hey, Zach, by the way, we're leaving the United States on a fishing boat and I can't tell you where we're going." That must have been pretty crazy going through that experience as a kid.
yeah, I think I would ask a lot of questions if she told me ahead of time, and I'll probably ask, and I'll probably call probably go home and talk to my dad. But the decision was made between my mom, and my dad. She always want a better future for us, and I think escaping the country, fighting freedom or prosperity somewhere else, that's the route that she's already made up her mind. So we are on this boat. I still have no idea, and all I remember that during the day, we were told to stay at the bunker, which is where they used to store the fish. So now there's 165 people on the boat, and these are very primitive fishing boat, not a boat that is a wooden boat with
Hmm.
very primitive machineries. And I believe now looking back, because now I have the opportunity looking back to some of the footage that were captured by some other folk, and I said, "Oh my God, if I know what I know now, I would never get in that boat." Uh, so during the day, we would stay beneath the boat, and I remember there's a lot of people, and a lot of these people are city people. When they decide to escape, the way it worked that your family have to stay behind, pay the boat owner a certain amount of money,
Mm.
and until and a lot of people were vomiting everywhere because a lot of people got seasick. They never been in a boat before. Here they are trying to cross the ocean to go to the other side. Um, I don't remember how many days we spent at sea, but luckily that me and my brother we didn't get seasick. See, we're fine. Um, I remember they hand out this little fruit that you can eat that keep you hydrated, and that's the only thing that we survive upon. At night, we are allowed to get up.
Do you remember what the fruit was that would keep you hydrated?
I don't remember all it is. It's just very watery. It's more like our thing is like it's probably it's similar to a pear, if you will. It's a lot of water to keep you hydrated. But that's all we have. They have
Mm.
bags and bags of these things. I guess they know that to keep you
Hmm.
hydrated. So we are heading south now. We're heading south to you have Malaysia, Indonesia, a lot of the other places because during that time there's a lot of refugee camps set throughout Southeast Asia for the Vietnamese who were actually escaping at the time. But we spent, I don't remember how many days we spent at sea, but we end up on an island, a refugee camp. That's where I ended up spending about 6 years of my early childhood. But before
Mm.
I talk about the time I spent at this refugee camp, I want to also mention that during that time, I don't know the exact statistic, but a lot of boat end up sinking because they're overcrowded. So
Mm.
I think for every like person made to the island, someone lost their life, and not only that, there are a lot of pirates that happened at the time. I was too young to remember, but I remember that this lady in my mom neighborhood. She went on a different boat, and her boat ended up was captured by the pirate. And now a
Mm.
lot of these folks are um, fishermen from other countries, if you will, that see the opportunity, knowing a lot of the Vietnamese people are escaping, which they take all the gold and jewelry with them,
Hmm.
um, see the opportunity and board their ship, their boat, and took all the money. Their situation there was a lot of people lost their life during these when these things happen.
So the fishermen that were working around there were actually becoming the pirates. They were watching people leave, and eventually they figured out that these are refugees. They're probably pretty weak. They don't have weapons or anything like that. So they took advantage of the situation.
100%. And these are fishermen from neighboring country. It's unfortunate that these things happen, but that's the fact. But luckily, that didn't happen to our boat, but we know some other boat that happened to. That woman that's raped.
Jeez, did everyone survive on your boat, or what was kind of the energy like? Were people like, could you see people starving? Were there people actually dead? What was kind of the state of people as a whole on your boat specifically?
We not, I mean, we're not starving, but I think we are in a very bad situation because a lot of these guys, even the captain of the boat, sometimes these guys are not really a licensed captain. These are just normal fishermen. They probably go a couple of miles out of the ocean. But what happened? These guys sometimes they want to go, so the boat owner say, "All right, if you take this X amount of people, you don't have to pay the fee." That's sometimes the structure. It's not so a lot of these. So for us, we would survive, but we didn't like. We're not like we have a very comfortable experience. I will tell you, it's not the case. But there are when we arrive at the island, a refugee camp, we have witnessed that many boat in a lot of bad shape. That people who are didn't make it through that
Mm.
very tough journey, if you will.
Yeah. Did or it, it sounds like whatever you were getting away from and running from in Vietnam, it must have been pretty bad conditions, pretty horrible conditions, because that's an insane amount of trust to put in the structure of a fishing boat, and navigating dangerous waters that are even dangerous without pirates. I'm sure there are a lot of weather conditions and weather things that are happening on the water that could have killed people as well. And it's an insane amount of trust to put into a person who may or may not be a licensed boat captain in order to get to that new place that you're going. It's a lot of faith and a lot of trust.
You are correct, and I think up to today, I give credit to my mom. She have a very strong heart and mind in order to take that risk. She's a risk taker, and that's where I see myself where I am now. Looking back, the risk that I'm taking now, the financial risk, the risk of starting the company
Mm.
from nowhere, and we all know 95% startup fail. But I look at that risk and the risk my mom took, which is the most valuable thing in life itself. And my mom took that risk. So that's what else to lose.
So when you actually got to the island and you were living in that refugee camp for 6 years, what was the day to day like? What were you seeing? What were the living conditions like? What was the situation as a whole for that time that you spent on that island?
Yeah, I absolutely. So we do. The sin is fund. I believe it's funded by through United Nations. So I believe every Wednesday you go. There's a central location that you go. They give out some of your rice, some of your basics. There's some food that they hand out to you. You are assigned to at the beginning. This little tent. Really, I mean that's what you see on TV when they set up these refugee camps. That's exactly like that. And later on, you move to this. A very basic apartment complex, if you will. There were some, and my mom had to, she ended up become a small food vendor. She's selling food, and I was selling stuff along the street. I used to sell bread to help my mom with living. We didn't have school. We did at one point, and then there were a protest, so they shut down the school. My day to day would be I would go to somebody's house tutoring math. That's all I learned. Spend a lot of time outdoor. I mean, there's not much. You're just waiting. So the way the process works, that when you get to the island, you have to go to what called the interview process to apply for refugee status, and you have to provide your supporting documentation, which is to prove that hey, you were giving difficulty back at home country, and your family was served there, part of the South Vietnam and along the American, so that you go through the whole process.
Mm.
But for me, looking back, really, I have, I don't have a whole lot, but I think it's probably the best childhood experience for me growing up on the islands.